All right, hello everyone. My name is Dr. Matt Selba, and I'll be your instructor for MAT162, and for some of you, MAT062. So this course is called Statistical Reasoning, and throughout the semester, we'll get an introductory view of statistics and how that's relevant in your careers, and then also in your personal lives too. So I'm really excited for the course. This is my, I want to say, third year teaching it, so it's hard to believe I've been at Del Tech for that long, and it's one of my favorite courses to teach. So the goal of this video is really just to get you acquainted with our course page, where to find information, what you need for the first day of class, and then just a general overview of the course. If you're in the MAT062 course, which is the support class, I'm going to mention things at the end of the video, so make sure you check that out as well. If you're not in MAT062, you can ignore that last part of the video. So first things first, if you go to our course page, MAT162-413, you'll notice the first thing you see is a welcome announcement. So make sure you read that in depth. As a reminder for our class, we meet on Mondays at 6 o'clock, 6 to 7:50. And then if you're in the support class, it's 8 to 8:50. And that's going to be in room East 431, which is the East building at the Wilmington George campus. So if you could go ahead and take a look over the course before then, that would be great. And this video will kind of help you do that. The course orientation video is what you're watching right now. There are a lot of different resources, so it's a good idea just to kind of sift through, what we're doing. And again, like I said, the video is going to help you out with that. For the textbook, it is recommended that you obtain the textbook from the bookstore. It's the Introductory Statistics Analyzing Data with Purpose in-class activity student pages. So we'll be completing guided activities together in class, and you want to have something to write your notes in for the course. So the textbook is actually more of like a workbook for the course. Now, if you're in the support class, they do have this other co-requisite support book, and it'll actually say co-requisite support in the title. You do not need to purchase that book, and it is not helpful for my courses and my sections. We do not use it exclusively. We pull some activities from there, but for the most part, do not purchase that one. So if you already purchased it, go ahead and return it to get your money back. Now, if you're a person who likes to type their notes and you're very organized digitally with saving your files, and you don't want to purchase the MAT162 book, you could print out the in-class activities, or you could even type your notes on your computer, again, if you're very organized with saving and being able to reference your notes at a later time. If that's not you, which to be honest wasn't me as a student, I would go ahead and purchase the textbook from the bookstore. I don't think it's crazy expensive relative to other costs of your textbooks, and I think it's really worth it to have them on paper if that is the type of student you tend to be. Now, I know for a lot of you, this is your first course at Del Tech or the first course that you've taken in a while. So just some common things that students need help with on the first day. It's always recommended to get your student ID before the first day of class so that you're not scrambling to find where things are and to get your ID and go to class all on the same day. If you need information, there's a link here on how to get that. Additionally, you guys as students at Del Tech, you have a free installation of Microsoft 365. If you haven't used Microsoft Word in a while and Microsoft Excel, Del Tech offers that for free for you. So go ahead and watch this video on how to download that on your computer for free so that you can use it in the future. If you're an Apple or Mac user, one thing to do before the first class is to follow these settings. You won't be able to access some of the assignments unless you turn off prevent cross-site tracking. So go ahead and do that before the first day. For our week 1 to 2 assignments, you're going to notice in this course there's a lot of mini assignments. So I like to be very detailed in my weekly announcements by telling you exactly what to do, and I even hyperlink it. Everyone, this takes me a while to hyperlink every single assignment, so please use my announcements to help you out. So we're going to be covering on Monday, the 25th, from 6 to 7:50, the Honors Pledge, in-class activities 1A, 1B, and 1C. Remember, those are like your note-taking sections, and those can be found in the textbook. What I've also done is I hyperlinked the digital file. So if you're a person who likes to type their notes, you can actually click on there. It'll take you to a new tab, and you could type into them on Microsoft Word. I'll also introduce our first project checkpoint, which is Project 0, and I'll talk about that later. If you're the MAT162 support class, we'll meet from 8 to 8:50. I'll talk more about that at the end of the video. Throughout the semester, if you need help from me, please let me know. I'm available up to a half hour before class, during our class break time, during the support class, or Thursday evenings from 5 to 7 via Zoom. I'll send you a link if you choose that route, and we can set up a meeting and a Zoom link once the time is confirmed. During weeks 1 to 2, here are your assignments. And like I said, there's a lot of mini assignments here. So I don't want to go through every single one of them. I'll detail those a little bit more in this video and during our first class. I'm also going to send out a recommended work schedule the night of our class. So I'm basically going to take this list and kind of put it into, okay, here's what I would do as a student if it was Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It's nothing crazy. All I do is I basically split up the number of assignments into the number of days you have and divide it equally. I'm a math guy, right? So I just like to have a checklist for you to follow to keep it easy. So a lot of smaller assignments, organization is definitely a key to success here. If you want to know a little bit about me, I'll kind of go over this in class, so I don't want to go over it again here. I already talked about email is the best way to contact me. Student hours, again, I don't have them, but Thursday from 5 to 7 work best if you need to meet. And then if you do email me, you can expect a response within 24 hours on most days, 24 to 48 hours on weekdays if it's busy. So just to keep a lookout for that. Some other links that might be helpful with your writing. I'll reference those throughout the semester. At the top right, we have our calendar. So you'll see a calendar view. You could click on the day where there's a blue dot. You could actually see what assignments are due there as well. And then you also have them listed in detail under upcoming events. On the right-hand side, we have some helpful links that we'll reference. You do not need a calculator for a course. You're simply going to use the Desmos calculator on your web browser. The weekly timeline schedule is a very detailed, 100-foot view of the course and kind of what assignments we'll be doing each week, where we're going. You'll see that week 1 to 2 tends to be the busiest. We have a lot of mini assignments there, and then as it gets further and further, there's less and less assignments, so it's kind of built that way where I would say the less complex assignments, they kind of have more packed version of them in weeks 1 to 2, and then as we get to the more complex assignment, there's less assignments to do in general. So I'll go over that in class as well. So again, if this is kind of your one-stop shop, this weekly timeline schedule to find out what we'll be doing each week. If you wanted to plan ahead, like you have something going on the week of the 22nd, you want to know what's going on that week. That's a good way to figure out ahead of time. Okay, so that's our homepage. I'll also have some links in class sorted by week. I'll go over that in class. There is free math tutoring at Del Tech. So if you're struggling, as an adjunct, I can't really meet outside of the short amount of time I have. So we actually offer free tutoring. If you're struggling with a topic at any point, that's both in person and virtually. So I'll send out a PDF on the tutoring hours for the semester just so you know where they're at. So that's that. All right, so just an overall view of the course. If you click on content, on the left-hand side, here's the Start Here tab. You have some course information. So just some general information about myself again, the syllabus, the orientation video, which you're watching, the course policies and expectations. Like I said, email is the best way to contact me. Again, Thursdays evenings, if you need to meet briefly, that's the best time is on Zoom. The textbook materials, like we went over already. Late work. So there is policies for late work. So we understand life happens. If you need to submit assignments late, there's a strategy for that called late passes. These are for your preview and practice assignments, which I'll explain here in a second. And they have a 15% penalty per use. Okay. For the rest of your assignments, such as the projects, the major assignments, you would need to have a small conference with me. That could be done during class if you need to submit something late. Generally, we don't allow late assignments. We understand life happens, and you would have to schedule a meeting with me to be able to turn in a late project, checkpoint, or project. Okay. For returning feedbacks, I'm pretty good at making sure my gradebook's updated every week, once a week. I'm usually pretty good about returning your grades, I would say within 48 to 72 hours typically, unless there's something crazy going on. Attendance is really important. This is a hybrid course, right? So you're going to have one course on Monday evening, and then we would have typically had, like in an old school sense, a second class each week, maybe a Wednesday or Thursday night. That's not happening. This is a hybrid course. So it's really important that you attend the 1 day per week, because that's the majority of the course there, and we'll be doing some guided note taking. And if you miss it, you can almost treat it as, man, I'm actually missing kind of like 2 classes, right? So it's really important that you attend class. Overview of the assignments. You have your projects, your preview, practice, and formative activities as well. Sorry, I'll go over the flow of that here in a second. So the projects are like your summative assessments for the course. Instead of taking a like typical exam, that'll become in the form of a project. So it's a little more open-ended, open notebook. So for those of you who struggle with big tests, this is actually a pretty good course for you. You also receive feedback along the way on checkpoints, so that you're working towards a final draft of the project. Preview and practice assignments either preview what's going to happen in class or practice what we had just done in class. And I say in class, that could also be in some instructional videos. Again, this is a hybrid course, so half the material will be presented in person, and the other half of the material would be presented via video, okay? And then you have activities, and I talked about Edpuzzle videos. That's where the activities grade will come up with majorly. That's the most of your activity grade from Edpuzzle videos. Okay, so there's some testing policies, tips for success. Okay, so that's that. Evaluation measures, like I said, 60% are from the projects. That's your big grades from the course, just like you would have exams. Projects make those up. 5% and 15% for practice, and then 20% for the formative assignments. So here's the general flow of the course. During each week, you'll be completing preview assignments, which help you build foundational skills for our in-class activity during our meetings, or on an Edpuzzle video that you do on your own. Then during the in-class activities, this is where we're meeting as a class. We're working through problems together through some guided note-taking, some collaborative pair work, or this is your Edpuzzle video work that you're completing on your own. After you're done our in-class activity or Edpuzzle videos, you'll then be completing practice assignment, practicing what you learned within that lesson. This all leads up to your individual assessments of projects. There are no exams, you can ignore that, it's just the project. So that's kind of what we're thinking here for the course, and it goes into a little bit more detail on your preview to in-class to practice to assessment projects, that flow of the course. We'll see that throughout. There are 3 units total. Unit 1 has a couple projects in it. Unit 2 only has 1, and then Unit 3 only has 1 project. So there's like 3/4 projects that we're going to be completing in this semester. Semester schedule I already referenced. That's what was hyperlinked on the first page, but you can also find it if you click on content and look on the left-hand side. And that's actually true for a lot of information, such as the key terms, symbols, resource videos. Those will be hyperlinked throughout the semester, but this is also a really good place to find it. One thing would be helpful before class is to sign up for Edpuzzle. There are directions on how to do that, but I'm also going to go over that in class, and then here's a link to get onto Edpuzzle, just edpuzzle.com. Course projects, we'll go over that in class. Any information about the projects, overview, and instructions will be there. And then, again, I'll hyperlink a lot of the assignments and what's going to be completed, but you can always find it by clicking on content, going down to the appropriate unit. So we'll be starting in Unit 1. It'll give you an overview of what we're going to be doing, and then clicking on the individual lesson. So like our first in-class activity is 1A. If you wanted the digital file, you could look at 1A in-class activity, and it would appear here. Okay, so that's that for you. You'll also be able to access video lectures. They're actually hidden right now, but let's say you can't make it to class. I'll unhide those for students who are absent so that they can catch up on what was done during class. And that's a pre-recorded video if needed, okay? So same idea, and then eventually we'll get into like 1C where you'll see the preview assignment. There's no preview assignments for 1A or 1B, but for 1C there's a preview assignment that you would complete to get you ready for in-class activity 1C. If you want to try to do that before our first class, great. If not, no worries. I'm actually going to give us some time in class to do it, just to get us familiar with how to complete the preview assignments. At the end of each lesson, there's also practice assignments, such as the lesson 1 practice. So you'll have, like, at the end of lesson 2, let me go down to 2D, a lesson 2 practice. So you'll kind of see that after a set of lessons like 1A through 1D, you'll have a practice assignment to complete. So that's kind of the flow. And then all of that leads into your course projects, which we talked about earlier. Okay, where to find some submission spaces for assignments for projects. If you go to activities assignments, that's where you'll submit your project checkpoints and project final submissions. We don't really have any checklists or discussions for quizzes. There's only one, it's just the honors pledge. So that's just saying you won't cheat and don't use AI. I will know. Okay. And then your self-assessments and surveys, again, we don't really have any of those in the course. If you ever want to check out your grades throughout the course, you can click on grades, and then it'll take you right there, and you can see what you're missing and what still needs to be completed. So that's MAT162. I'll go over a lot of those details again in class. I know this is a lot of people's first Tech class or our first time back, using technology. So there's going to be a little bit of confusion on the first night, and I'm completely aware of that, and we'll just take it slow on the first night. Okay. If you're in the MAT062 class, if you could go ahead and stay on. If you're not, you're welcome to end the video here, and I'll see you in class on Monday. All right. So for MAT062 students, you're going to click on MAT062-413. You can get there by clicking on the 9 boxes and then clicking the appropriate course. So I also gave a welcome announcement, but I want you guys to know I'm not going to post several different announcements in several different spots. So just so you're aware, any future announcements are going to be made through the MAT162 course page. And so you won't see a lot of announcements on this page. So what is the support class? Well, the support class is meant to support you. And so how do we do that? Well, the goal of the support class is basically for you to get extra help within your, to get extra help within your MAT162 class. We'll do activities such as reviewing our notes from the class and asking if there's any questions. We'll have actual activities that you complete with your partners in class that kind of review information, right? I'll give you time to work on your projects and ask questions during the support class. So that's kind of the main idea. The support class will run from 8 to 8:50, and we'll kind of work together on getting you support in the main class. So some big information here, guys. I don't think there's anything on the homepage here. So some big pieces of information are just the general flow of the course. If you go to content and then click on the Start Here tab, and then course information, and then course policies and expectations, you'll see a lot of the information is the same. As a reminder, if this course was required per your college placement, you cannot withdraw from the course without withdrawing from MAT162. So it is required if you're in MAT162 to take MAT062 if you were placed there. Okay. Same information as before here. As a reminder, you do not need the textbook, so you can ignore that line there. Late work, very similar. There's going to be some additional activities for the support class. So any assessments can only be taken after a conference with me up until the project deadline. So just keep that in mind for the support class as well. Same thing that applied to preview and practice assignments. There are also going to be some additional support class activities that help review what we did. Those would also be due up until the last day for each unit. So we'll talk about that in class. Attendance for the support class is also important, so make sure we attend. So here's the breakdown of your grade for the support class particularly. So these first 3 categories come directly from your MAT162. So they're not new assignments, so the same ones from MAT162. However, for the support class, 40% of your grade will come from these support activities. So I'll go over what those are in a second. So the activities for this course are solely associated with MAT062. Oftentimes, we're going to be doing some group quizzes, so you'll be able to work together. You'll be able to ask questions. I call it a quiz, but they're more like open note quizzes. And they're basically reviewing what we've been doing in our MAT162 class. So that's the majority of the assignments. I think there's 6 total that we'll do through the 15 weeks. The other time that we spend in class will be dedicated to working on your projects or getting help with any preview or practice assignments from the MAT162 course page. Okay, so there's just a review. Those are the evaluation measures that I just went over, and the learning cycle is the same as the other course. All right, there is no Ed Puzzle. There's no additional signups that you need to do for that. And we really won't reference a lot of the support lessons, particularly in this class. I'll pull some of them if there's an activity I want to do, but there's no reason to really look through this side page unless I direct you to. All right, so that's the support class. If you guys have any questions on that, please let me know during our first class, and I'll see you all, I guess, first off at 6 o'clock for MAT162, and then I'll also see you again at 8 o'clock for MAT062 on Monday night. All right, so with that, you guys are good to go to end the video. Have a great one, and I'll see you on Monday. All right, bye.